Hello, I'm Dr. Ellie Jameson and today I'm going to be talking about flowers. So what are flowers and why are they important? So flowers are the reproductive part of a plant. So they have different structures inside them and they use these flowers to make seeds for the plant. So the plant life cycle, the plant starts off as a seed, that's like the baby. It has a hard shell and it has everything inside that seed for making a whole new plant. So it has the DNA there, instructions of how to make all the different parts of that plant. And that seed waits around for just the right conditions. So it needs air and water and usually soil are the right conditions. And when it finds those right conditions, it starts to do something called germination. That's where all the bits inside that seed start to get turned on and know that they're going to grow. And the first bit of growth that you get that comes up that starts needing light, that's called the seedling. So when the seedling starts to poke out of the soil, it starts to grow roots down, it starts to grow a stem up, and that'll probably start to grow some leaves. So then it grows the leaves and its stem gets bigger and it turns into this mature plant. And on the mature plant, then we can get flowers. And these flowers will start then to make more seeds. And then the whole cycle can start again. You can start growing another plant. So different parts are inside these flowers. So I've got a few different flowers that we can look at today. So we've got some, so we've got a poppy here. So this is our poppy flower. And then we've got this foxglove as well. So inside these different flowers are different parts of them. So they've got male and female parts inside these flowers. So if you take apart our foxglove in here, it's got the pretty petals around the outside, so that's the colour. And then inside, we've cut it away, we can see the petals there, but also inside here, we can look at, it's got different bits. So these are the male parts, these are the anthers, and they have pollen on the end of them. And the idea is if the plant gets pollinated, the pollen goes onto the end of this stigma here, which is the female part of the plant, and it travels down here into the ovaries. So this part that it travels down is called the style, and then goes to the ovaries here. And when the pollen gets on there from the stigma and goes down into the ovaries, then it starts to make new seeds down there in the ovaries, and those are then the fertilised part. Now to fertilise this, to transfer the pollen from those anthers onto our stigma, we need something to do that. So pollinators are ways of getting the pollen transferred onto the female bud of the plant. So you can either get pollination by the wind, it can be through insects, through birds, and even small mammals. So insects are the most common in our gardens and we can see them every day. We can see bees, maybe some flies and some butterflies. And these are attracted to the plants by the colour of these flowers. So all these different colours, we can see some of them with our eyes, they have different patterns on, and some of them only the insects can see with their eyes. So they can see different patterns that we can't see using different parts of the light. And they attract them into the flowers. And now to keep them coming back, just something colourful wouldn't be enough to keep the insects coming back. But inside the flowers, they also make something called nectar. So this is like a sweet, sugary liquid that those bees and the butterflies can use, and that keeps them alive and keeps them growing. So they come back for the flowers, for the colours, and they know the nectar's in there. And while they're there getting that nectar, then they're accidentally picking up some pollens, maybe on their legs and their wings, and the next time they visit another flower, they'll go inside there and they'll leave some of that pollen behind. So inside here, we've got the female part is actually longer than the male part. So when it's all together in there, so the female part sticks up the top because it doesn't want the pollen from its own flower, it would like the pollen from a different flower. So if it gets this different mix of pollen from other places, then it mixes their DNA together and it might make a stronger, better plant. So it likes to get DNA from outside the plant. And again, with our poppy seeds, we can see the different parts of the poppies, we can pull them down and see what's inside these poppy seeds. So it's a bit hard to see inside the poppy. So the little tiny curly bits in the middle are the female parts, and around the outside, these long bits here are the pollen bits. It's a bit wet today, so it's hard to get the pollen off it. But so that goes in there, and then from the same poppy plant, so after this one's been pollinated in the middle, the bit in the middle starts to grow longer and longer and longer until it grows this big seed case. And inside here, they're still not ripe, but there's little tiny poppy seeds. So these are green at the minute, and when they're ripe, the outside will turn a browny grey colour, and it'll go quite brittle. And if you touch the top, then this will all open up and it'll throw the seeds for quite a long way. And then these seeds will be black when they're ready to be scattered about and pollinated. All right, so those are the simple flowers, but sometimes you get more complicated flowers. So we've got some sunflowers here, and these just have one blossom at the top, but this isn't just one flower. This is lots and lots of different tiny flowers. So it's got some of these colourful big petals around the outside, but those aren't the true petals. We can look at the middle. This is an even bigger sunflower plant. So this was one of the flowers, and these are again the petals around the outside. But in the middle, we've got these tiny bits, and these are actually the individual flowers. So each one of these is a tiny flower. And underneath the flower, the seeds grow. So those little white spots are where the flowers are on top. And we can break these apart, and this will give us our seeds from the middle of the sunflower. So this sunflower, where they've been pollinated, each one of those had a little flower on top of it. And then the sunflower seed grows underneath. And then these we can eat, or we can feed them to birds, or we can keep them and grow them for next year into more flowers. So those are sunflowers which have multiple flowers, and other things like this oxeye daisy also have lots of these tiny flowers in the middle and then big petals around the outside, but each tiny little dot of yellow in the middle is a different flower. And then I'm going to show you one last type of flower, which is from our pumpkin plant. So the pumpkin plant, it doesn't have a flower which has all the male and female bits. It has two different types of flowers. So it's got some flowers, like this one, which are the male flowers. So in the middle here of our flower, we've got the bit which gives you the pollen, and I've pulled one apart a bit more here so it's a bit easier to see. So we've got this bit here, which gives our pollen. So those are the male flowers. And then we've got some flowers on here, which look a bit different. So these ones, if you can see, they've got the flower on the top, and then they've got this round bit, and this is going to grow into the pumpkin. And inside, they don't just have those bits with the pollen, but they've got the female parts of the flower in here. And these female parts of the flower is again the stigma and the style, and that needs the pollen from the male flowers to go inside to make seeds inside that pumpkin. So inside that pumpkin there'll be lots of different seeds which will grow up from there. So that's why some of our pumpkin flowers just fall off and we don't get a pumpkin, but other of them which are closer to the stem have these round balls. So there's a few hiding in here which are going to be the female flowers, and that's where we're going to get the pumpkins from. So not every flower will make a pumpkin, only the female flowers will make the pumpkins. And then that helps to make sure that they're all mixing together, the different parts, the different pollen, different flowers, and they're not just relying on the one flower which has both male and female parts. So those are all our different flowers, so you can get some flowers, find them in your own garden, outside, and have a look at them and see if they're one flower, if there are lots of different flowers inside your flowers, and pull apart the different bits so you can see the male bits which have that pollen on it, and then the females which are usually right in the middle of the flower and a bit longer so that they don't get pollinated by themselves. So some other interesting things which can pollinate your flowers. So as well as having the wind, we can also, in some countries, you get flowers which are pollinated by flies. So these ones tend to smell really horrible. And you get things like the corpse flower, which is really, really stinky, and it attacks the flies in there, and the flies eat from the flower and they pollinate those flowers that way. And also in Madagascar, there's some interesting flowers which grow in something called the traveller's palm, which has the largest pollinator in the world, and this is a lemur. It's a black and white ruffed lemur, and they are the only things which can prise open the flowers with their fingers and then use their long snouts to get in there and eat the nectar from the middle. And while they're doing that, then they pick up the pollen, and the next flower they go to, they'll pollinate that. Okay, so that's all about flowers, so have fun finding your own flowers and seeing what's inside them. Thank you, bye.